Hi, I'm Shaun Conway. I'm the founder of IXO, and we've been building out some protocols for the Internet of Impact, which is implemented in the Cosmos SDK. And we're at a stage now where we're inviting broader participation in this movement to create an Internet of Impact. And so today I'm going to speak about why the world needs a stateful graph-based Internet of Impact. So with the problems that we face in the world, we need an internet-scale digital infrastructure to improve the state of the world. And I firmly believe that we have the responsibility and potential to create a vision for Cosmos to be part of that infrastructure solution for sustainability. And fundamentally, this enables a citizen-centric approach to investing in the future, which we'll talk about people's money. And using these technologies, we can advance the ways in which we create linkages, bonds between the real world and the digital world, to use cybernetic state machines to incentivize the achievement of future state outcomes. And using the state machine, we can create graphs of impact intelligence, which we can share. And we can tokenize resources to enable trading and tracking of stocks and flows of inventories that are important to creating a circular economy. And I'd like to talk about how we can do this by building an Interchain stack for the Internet of Impact. So Cosmos has been founded with a vision of being an Internet of blockchains. And I would ask an Internet of blockchains for what? What is this purpose? And I believe a strong part of this purpose is to provide an Internet of blockchains for a sustainable future. The reality is that we live on a non-fungible planet, whereas in the past we would speak about externalities and consider natural resources to be, in a way, almost kind of renewable. We now know that the oceans are not renewable, that the carbon carrying capacity of the planet has limits, and we can't just replace our planet with another planet. And so we have choices to make about the future state of the world that we want. And this is really where we stand now on the brink of this decision as humanity. And we get to decide about the kinds of impacts that we will see in the world going forward. So impacts are changes in the state of the world over time. So if we have consensus about the state of the world and how that state is changing over time, it enables us to coordinate our actions. It enables us to create policies and responses that can move us forward in the right direction. And just recently, there's been a consensus, which is an important consensus coming out of the UN Task Force on Digital Finance for the Sustainable Development Goals. And I'd like to play a short video which speaks to this idea of a citizen-centric approach called people's money.
We are at a fundamental crossroads. Digitalization can advance us more rapidly in achieving the Sustainable Development Goals, or it can deepen exclusion, divide us further, increase inequality. The choice is ours. For the first time, digital technology can put economic power into the hands of people, the people that own today's global financial resources. What if every citizen was empowered to make financial choices that support the SDGs and was able to ensure that every last dollar was spent on what really matters to them, family, community, their country, and the planet? Let's put citizens in the driving seat by enabling them to use their savings to finance their long-term development.
Increasingly, mobile platforms and data analytics are bringing sophisticated financial services to mass markets. Governments are digitalizing public finance, whilst a third of US public equity trades are now being carried out by computer-managed funds.
Digital technologies, which are revolutionizing financial markets, can be a game changer in reaching our shared objective.
The UN Secretary General invited 17 global leaders from around the world in areas as diverse as financial regulation, policy, financial technology, financial institutions, and other experts to form a task force to consider how best to harness digitalization in advancing financing of these Sustainable Development Goals.
We have not begun to understand quite how transformative much of what we refer to perhaps as digital finance or fintech will be in the years to come.
what we've been tasked with is to look at digitalization and to try and understand how digitalization can be used and can be harnessed to finance the SDGs.
Today, they have completed their task, prepared a report that includes an ambitious action agenda that will fulfill the mandate that was set to them.
Here in Zimbabwe, 90% of the adult population is already registered on EcoCash, the mobile money platform. Because of this deep penetration, it enabled us to retool, repurpose rapidly during this COVID-19 crisis. Employers were still able to pay their employees while they were still at home without incurring any additional fees. We also launched a COVID digital insurance, where anyone who held insurance and came forward for testing, and if they tested positive for COVID, immediately received a $5,000 payout.
Our Pathfinder initiative, the Digital Governance of Infrastructure initiative, or as we call it, Infrastructure 360, enables investors, governments, citizens to have a complete view of nearly every piece of information about infrastructure projects globally. This will enable governance, but it will enable more funding to go to the right type of infrastructure projects to support the SDGs.
We are channeling domestic micro savings into mega investments and then using blockchain to track accountability of these funds. This would offer domestic micro savers a choice of projects that they will invest in, such as particular roads or bridges, sanitation systems, or hospitals. This approach would deliver significant reduction in the cost of capital as well as economic multiplier effects as dividends flow to poor Bangladeshi citizens.
All of these solutions require better digital infrastructure, enhanced capabilities, and universal access. Defenses are needed to ensure against cyber vulnerability, fraud, illicit financial flows, and algorithms that can discriminate against particular groups. Digitalization needs to enhance the alignment of finance with the SDGs rather than, for example, increasing short-termism or market concentration. Realizing these solutions, overcoming barriers, and mitigating risks requires concerted actions by many different actors, by policymakers and financial regulators, by financial institutions in the markets themselves, including new fintech innovators, by development institutions operating at both the national level and the international level, as well as standards makers, experts, and civil society actors. Just as today's crisis has pushed us to take greater advantage of the digital world, so digitalization can help us to better align financing with the Sustainable Development Goals.
And so the conclusions of this report are that there are catalytic opportunities and a call to action around channeling domestic savings into sustainable investments, financing small and medium-sized businesses, and ensuring that there's greater trust and transparency and accountability around public financing. So, for instance, an initiative we're involved in within the EU to track all public financing related to the recovery funds and Green Deal, embedding SDG data into financial and capital markets, and encouraging sustainable consumption. Now, I believe that all of this can be massively enabled by us putting in place infrastructure for a crypto economy. And what do we mean by crypto economy? It's really the economy, but built on state, built on non-fungible records with tokenized data and rights and crypto economic mechanisms, which we might refer to as sustainable DeFi, systems that are open and permissionless and that can be programmatically made to be cybernetic, meaning getting connections and feedback loops between the digital world and the physical world. And so an example of this is the community inclusion currencies, which are being implemented by grassroots economics. And so here's a live dashboard just taken from the website today. And we see stocks and flows of local currencies, tokenized currencies, which demonstrate the transactions that are happening at a community level. They demonstrate the kinds of priorities that people are making, and also demonstrate the ability at a local level to create prosperity through reinvesting, through a circular economy, And so these stocks and flows, our ability to create states around them, our ability to visualize them, and our ability to build on them are key elements of how we achieve people's money. And underlying this are cryptoeconomic mechanisms and financial engineering. And so this is a diagram from block science, which is a systems diagram of that complete community inclusion currencies system. And so utilizing cryptoeconomics gives us much greater capabilities to build these new kinds of financial mechanisms, inclusion mechanisms, and prosperity mechanisms. And if we take this further and we look at blockchains as not only being static state machines, but actually being cybernetic state machines, meaning that if we enable bonding between the real world and the digital world, and then establish future state outcomes that we want to achieve with tokenized incentives, we can coordinate people's actions, get collective actions, and the right kind of incentives towards creating future outcomes. And so the work we've done in this regard is to engineer what we call alpha bonds, which are an automated market maker, which does risk-adjusted bonding. And this is built into the IXO Cosmos SDK and demonstrates the capabilities to create an interface that brings information from the real world into the pricing and supply of tokens on the blockchain. And so we can envision a world where scaling sustainable finance using these mechanisms can happen through these cybernetic, autonomous, and replicable units. And for this, we need an internet scale blockchain infrastructure. And for this infrastructure to become internet scale, we need to look at what are the web protocols, what are the core underlying protocols that can enable this to happen. So we've seen how the rise of the web has happened over the past couple of decades, really powered by graphs, such as the Google Knowledge Graph, giving us the web of information, Facebook's social graph, the web of social media, the Amazon Trust Graph, the web of commerce, and arguably the Bitcoin hash graph, giving us the start of a web of money. And these graphs are hosted and distributed by internets, whether it's the World Wide Web or now interconnected blockchains. Underlying these webs and these internets are protocols which link resources. And so the web started with connections between documents, and HTML really being the way in which we could navigate the connections between these resources. And then there were attempts to create a semantic web with RDF connecting data. And that has been improved with linked data, JSON LD, so creating a web of linked data. And more recently, standards around verifiable credentials. So now we can take linked data and we can make them cryptographically verifiable and utilize this in authenticating and creating new kinds of value flows. When we place these kinds of credentials, these kind of structured data objects with their proofs on blockchains, we get a web of stateful, verifiable linked data. And the latest developments are work that we're currently doing together with Interchain Foundation to establish interchain standards for NFTs and metadata will give us a web of stateful, meaning non-fungible and tokenized graphs with verifiable linked data. And this is really important as the underlying infrastructure for an internet of blockchains. Just to go a little bit more deeply into what we mean by these protocols, we now have a set of standards around resource identifiers, which are cryptographically authenticated, so decentralized identifiers, and some new identifier standards that we'll be proposing linked to interchain standards and NFTs. And then classifiers, allowing us to make sense of structured data by linking to schemas through contexts, so using the JSON LD. And this comes together in a verifiable credential. So something that is cryptographically verifiable, that enables us to identify, for instance, identify impact, identify what's happening in the state of the world, in a way in which is resolvable back to someone who has signed a statement about the state of the world, and that enables us to record this in a way that gives us high definition data that can be evaluated and verified as a claim with proofs. And so over time, when we record the state of the world in this stateful sequential kind of way, it enables us to look at changes over time and to verify these as outcome states. And so when we have these verified outcome states, whether it's about children being educated and achieving levels of educational competencies, or whether it's about growing new forests to capture carbon, or really any other sustainable development objective, we are able to now create representations of the state of the world in a tokenized, non-fungible format. And these tokenized states of the world give us the capabilities to now really represent outcomes and count the things that we value in relation to sustainability, and put these into financing mechanisms, put them into ways of creating stocks and flows and ledgers of the resources that are meaningful to us and that we need to be incorporating into our new economy. And so if we look at this from the perspective of the Cosmos community and what it would take for us to create an interchain stack for an Internet of Impact, I believe that we have the building blocks in place. I didn't put specific project logos and so on this table, but you could locate various projects within the Cosmos ecosystem that are working on different components of the stack. And whether that's at the protocol level, the work that's being done on inter-blockchain communications, and now NFTs and metadata, building on web protocols such as the identifier protocols, decentralized IDs, and verifiable credentials, we can then now take these core protocols and implement them through our state machines using the Tendermint consensus engine or other blockchains and the interconnections between these blockchains, with the role for inter-blockchain relayers here. At the computation and data layer, we have app-specific blockchains, and whether these are applications for electronic money transfers or connecting in Internet of Things, or any of the projects within the Cosmos ecosystem can be purposed towards supporting this Internet of Blockchain with application-specific capabilities relating to computation and data, and feeding into the creation of the economy that enables us to create these new crypto-economic mechanisms, whether it's the sort of more simple mechanisms around minting and burning tokens and creating an increasingly tokenized economy, or representing resources as non-fungible tokens, and then putting this into mechanisms such as automated market makers, and I spoke about alpha bonds here. And then at the apps and UI layer, we have wallets, and we have web and mobile clients and DeFi applications, which can build on this Internet of Impact with the purpose of supporting goals and ideals such as people's money. So in summary, we have the opportunity, and I would say the obligation almost, kind of given the capabilities of the systems we're building, to have a stateful graph-based Internet of Impact, which is built by the Cosmos community, and which is supported by interchain standards and connections to other blockchains, which can be similarly purposed towards creating an internet-scale digital infrastructure response to the sustainability needs and challenges. And so the question is today, is this a vision for Cosmos that the Cosmos community can really stand behind, that this is something that should become an explicit purpose for the Internet of Blockchains, that it becomes the internet of blockchains for a sustainable future. And that supports this ideal of people's money, of really having a citizen-centric approach to investing in the future, enabling inclusion, not only financial inclusion, but also inclusion in creating and participating in and being rewarded in a new economy. Can we bring our collective engineering skills and our capabilities to really envision a new kind of cybernetic state machine, which enables an adaptive approach to the complex world with its state changes, that can enable us to move forward in ways that are deterministic, that are incentivized, and that can be coordinating, sharing intelligence, sharing information, working off of the same base to have collective goals and collective actions that get us to go forward. And as we do this, we can be collecting information, data within these graph-based internet protocols that enables us to gather intelligence and grow intelligence about the state of the world and about what is working and what's not working as we go forward. And then by tokenizing resources using these standards, it enables us to create these inventories and to track stocks and flows of resources as we begin to move towards a more circular economy, where we can get visibility on what's happening with the resources in the world, and we can direct our responses and direct these resources towards sustainable end goals. And so I've spoken about the Interchain stack. I would welcome the community to respond, to come with your proposals of how you see the stack evolving. What is the role of your project if you're a Cosmos-based SDK blockchain, or if you're a developer in this community? What is it that you can build on the Internet of Impact that will help us move towards this vision? And so today, I believe we have some amazing milestones and achievements within the Cosmos community, within the state of development of the Cosmos technologies and moving towards the launch of Stargate. And we also have at the same time a consensus that's been created and that is growing around digitalization and how these technologies can have a true impact on the state of the world. And so on that note, I would welcome you all to engage in this conversation and become part of a movement that takes us towards the Internet of Impact. Thank you.